I never thought I'd be the type to sit here and spill my guts about something so raw, but I need to get this off my chest. Maybe someone out there has gone through something similar or just needs to hear it, whatever. Here, how it all started. My wife Lisa and I had been together for nearly 5 years. We known each other since college, and honestly I thought we were unbreakable. We didn't have many big fights, and I always trusted her implicitly. She's the kind of girl who's got that calm confidence, the kind that makes you feel safe just walking into the room. Our life was simple: a few vacations, lazy weekends, dinner with friends. Nothing spectacular, but it worked. Until that night. It was the rehearsal dinner for what was supposed to be our perfect wedding. Half the town was there, everybody smiling, making jokes about how I'd finally be shackled to her. I remember feeling proud, happy. That's when I saw her. Or more accurately saw him. My best man, Tom. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that easy grin he's always had. We'd been friends since college, and I trusted him like a brother. Seeing him there standing beside me, I felt a strange flicker, something off. But I shrugged it off. It was just nerves, maybe. Then the next morning I found myself scrolling through her phone just out of habit. That's when I saw the messages. At first they seemed innocent enough, flirty, playful stuff. But then I hit the pictures, explicit photos, and words that made my stomach turn. Things she'd said that no decent wife should say to anyone, especially not to her closest friend. The messages were ongoing over several weeks. She'd been sneaking around, hiding conversations, planning something. I could feel my heart pounding hard enough to burst. My palms got cold and sweaty, my vision flickered. The worst part, a hotel receipt tucked away in her emails from 2 nights ago. She'd gone somewhere with him. I was frozen. The world around me turned into a blur, voices, music, laughter, all muffled. I couldn't breathe. I didn't want to believe it at first. Maybe it was some kind of sick joke, but the evidence was staring right at me, clear as day. I confronted her that night. When she walked in, I was sitting at the dining table, shaky, with the phone in my hand. She looked confused at first, then her face slowly drained of color. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. I couldn't hold back the fury. "Who is this?" I pushed the phone toward her, showing her the messages. Her eyes widened and her lips parted. For a moment she said nothing, just stared. I don't know," she finally whispered, but the guilt in her eyes told a different story. It was like I was seeing her for the first time, cold, calculating, a stranger who'd been lying to me for months. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. My stomach clenched so tight I thought I might throw up. That was just the beginning. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I needed a plan. I couldn't let her get away with this. Not after everything we'd shared. I had to think this through, how to get revenge, how to make her feel just as betrayed as I felt now. I didn't want some messy, emotional explosion. I just wanted her to see that I knew what she did, and I wasn't going to be the fool she thought I was. As I sat there staring at her, I realized this was no longer just about heartbreak. It was about justice, about making her see that I wasn't going to be the guy who gets cheated on and walks away quietly. No, I was going to make her regret every single moment she thought she could get away with it. And that's when I started planning. The details would come soon enough. But for now, I just sat there, feeling the cold sweat on my palms and the sick feeling in my gut. The game was on, and I was ready. After I saw the messages and the hotel receipt, I knew I couldn't just walk away and pretend it was all a mistake. No, she crossed a line. She betrayed me in the worst way possible, right there on the night we were supposed to be celebrating our future. I needed to do something, but I also knew I had to be smart about it. Revenge isn't just about anger. It's about making sure she feels every ounce of what she's done. I had to plan carefully. First, I needed proof. Not just the messages and the hotel receipt, but enough to make her realize I knew everything. I started digging through her phone, emails, social media. I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. I wanted her to see that I had uncovered her lies without her realizing I was already 2 steps ahead. I knew she'd try to lie her way out, deny everything, but I wanted her to see that I had the upper hand. I also decided I needed to know where she was last night, every move she made after I confronted her. I set up a little GPS tracker on her phone, discreet enough she wouldn't notice. That way I could watch her activities without her suspecting a thing. I felt a strange mixture of coldness and satisfaction doing this. Revenge wasn't supposed to make me feel this way, but I couldn't help it. She was going to learn that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I remembered Tom's face when I showed him the messages. I'd always trusted him, believed he was my friend. Now I was questioning everything. Was he really just innocent? Or was he equally complicit? I needed to find out. If he'd been cheating with her too, I was going to make damn sure he paid. But for now, I kept my focus on her. Over the next couple of days, I kept my routine normal. Work, a few beers with friends, but my mind was racing. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her lies. I'd never felt this level of betrayal before, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. I was going to make her regret every moment she thought she could cheat on me and walk away clean. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on her movements. Last night, I saw her leave the house around 8 p.m. heading toward downtown. The GPS confirmed she went to a hotel, a place I knew she'd never have gone alone unless she was sneaking around. I also noticed a strange number saved in her contacts. I didn't know who it belonged to, but I made a mental note to find out. That evening, I printed out all the evidence I had gathered, screenshots of messages, the hotel receipt, the GPS logs, and stored them securely. I didn't want her to find out I was already in control. I needed to stay calm, keep my emotions in check. If I was going to do this right, I had to be cold and precise. I knew I couldn't just confront her without a plan. She'd probably deny everything, spin some story about misunderstanding or a mistake. So I waited until I knew she'd be most vulnerable, most off guard. When she came home that night, I'd be ready. As I sat on the couch, staring at the evidence on my phone, I felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about respect, trust, and the fact that I deserved better. I wasn't going to let her ruin everything we had built together. She thought she could get away with it, but I was about to show her she was wrong. Tomorrow would be the day. The betrayal was laid bare, and I was going to make damn sure she understood exactly what she'd done, and that I was one step ahead. I had my plan ready. She'd see that I wasn't just some fool to be played with. I'd turn her game around, and she'd regret ever crossing me. Next, I had to decide how I was going to execute my revenge, but that's a story for later. For now, I was just waiting for her to walk through that door. And when she did, everything was going to change. The night she came home, the house felt colder than usual. Maybe it was just my nerves, or maybe I could feel the storm brewing in my chest. I'd spent the entire day rehearsing my moves, going over every detail in my head, making sure I stayed calm. No jumping to conclusions, no losing my temper. I wanted her to see that I knew and that I was in control. She slipped through the door around 11 p.m. quiet, tired from her secret night away. I was in the living room pretending to be absorbed in a movie, but really I was stealing myself. When she walked in, her eyes flicked around, searching for something, maybe reassurance. She looked exhausted, her face pale and her hair a bit messy, probably from rushing home. She hesitated. "Hey," she said softly, trying to sound casual. "What are you watching?" I looked up, keeping my tone even. "Just a movie. You look tired, rough night." Her shoulders slumped a little and she nodded. "Yeah, long day. Work was crazy and I guess I just needed to get away for a bit." I took a slow breath and pushed myself from the couch. "Yeah, well, I've been thinking about a lot lately, about us, about everything." I kept my voice steady, but inside my heart was pounding. I had to keep her off balance. She looked at me with big, confused eyes. "What do you mean?" I stepped closer, setting the evidence on the table behind me. "I mean, I've found some things. Things I really didn't want to see, but I couldn't ignore anymore. Things that changed how I see us right now." Her face started to pale. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone and pointed to the messages. "These, the ones with Tom, the hotel receipt, the pictures, I've got everything. Care to tell me what's going on?" She froze, her hands trembling. "You didn't have to do that, please." "No, Lisa, I think I do," I interrupted, voice low but firm. "You've been lying to me for months, sneaking around, pretending everything's fine. But I know the truth now, and I want to hear it from you." She looked like she wanted to run, but she was cornered. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "It didn't mean anything." "Oh, really? Because it looks pretty serious to me." I snapped, my chest tight with anger and heartbreak. A hotel, explicit pictures, messages. How many times did you see him? How many nights did you spend with him? Her tears welled up and she failed to meet my gaze. It's not what you think. I was overwhelmed. I was stupid. I stopped. I cut her off. I don't want to hear your excuses. I want to know why you did it. After everything, you decided I wasn't enough. Her voice cracked. It wasn't about you. It was about me feeling trapped. I felt lonely, like I was losing myself. I didn't mean for it to go this far, I swear. I shook my head, feeling the cold rage bubbling under my skin. That's bullshit. You crossed a line, Lisa. And now you're trying to spin some story to make me feel sorry for you. She fell silent, tears streaming down. I could feel my fists clenched tight. The betrayal was a knife in my gut, twisting harder with every second. I'd always believed in honesty and loyalty, and now I had proof that she'd thrown it all away. Here, what's going to happen? I said, voice quiet but deadly. You're packing your bags, you're leaving. Tonight, I don't want to see you in this house again until you've had time to think about what you've done. Her eyes widened in shock. You're serious? Oh, I'm very serious, I said, voice cold. You betrayed me and our vows. I won't be the guy who sticks around for that. You think you're going to manipulate me into feeling guilty. No, you made your choice and I'm making mine. She looked defeated, but part of me knew she'd try to change my mind. She always did when she was cornered, but I was done with her lies, done with the pain. I grabbed my keys from the table and held them out. Here's the key to your apartment. Get your things and leave. Don't contact me. Don't try to explain. Just go. She stared at me, her face a mask of regret and shock. Please, I love you, she whispered. I took a step back, feeling a strange mixture of relief and hollow emptiness. Love doesn't cheat, I said coldly. It doesn't lie. It doesn't betray the person it's supposed to cherish. You lost that when you decided to play your little game. As she hesitated, tears still falling, I turned and walked away, feeling the weight of everything. The house suddenly felt huge and empty. My stomach twisted with a mix of heartbreak and resolve. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was done being the fool. Now it was time for her to face the consequences of her choices. I stood at the door, watching her gather her things, and wondered, how far was she willing to go to keep her secrets? Or was she already planning her next move? Either way, I was ready. And I wasn't going to let her forget this. The next few days felt like walking through a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. I was numb most of the time, but every so often, a wave of anger would hit me. So hard I'd clench my fists until my knuckles turned white. I'd sit on the edge of my bed, staring at the empty bed where she used to sleep, and wonder how I'd let it get this far. How I didn't see the signs. How I didn't protect myself from this kind of betrayal. I knew I had to keep the upper hand. If I was going to do something about her, it had to be calculated. I couldn't just lash out in rage. That's not how you win a game like this. No, I needed to make her feel the pain of losing everything. The trust, the comfort, the future we'd talked about. I started planning my revenge carefully, piece by piece. First, I kept digging. I wanted to find out who else she might have been talking to or who else might be involved. I rechecked her phone, her email, her social media accounts. I set up an alarm for her email activity so I could see if she was trying to hide anything new. I didn't want to just catch her in the act. I wanted her to realize I was always watching. I also reached out to Tom. The idea of him being just a pawn in her game made me sick. I called him, kept it casual at first, but then I got straight to the point. Hey Tom, I want to ask you something. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? There was a long pause on the line. Man, I didn't mean for it to get this messy, he finally said, voice tense. I guess I was just caught up in the moment. Caught up, I echoed bitterly. You're my best friend. How could you do this? Did you even think about what it would do to me? He sighed heavily. Look, I screwed up. I was stupid, all right, but I swear I didn't want to hurt you. I got caught up in her too. I didn't see it coming. Yeah, right. That was the kind of excuse I hated, but I kept my cool. You're going to fix this. You're going to tell her to stop. And I want you to stay away from her, got it? He agreed, though I could tell he was uncomfortable. I knew he probably didn't want to lose his friendship with me, but I also knew that my trust had been shattered beyond repair. I'd have to decide what to do about him later, but for now I wanted to focus on her. That night I sat alone in my apartment, staring at her empty side of the bed. My stomach curled with a strange mix of emptiness and rage. I poured myself a drink, took a long sip, and started drafting a plan. I wanted her to feel the loss, the shame, the guilt, every single thing I was feeling now. I wasn't going to do anything rash, but I knew I had to make her see that I was serious. First, I decided I'd send her a message. Not confrontational, but cold and precise. Just enough to let her know I'd been watching. I wanted her to know I had everything. The messages, the receipts, the GPS logs. I'd make her realize that I could ruin her completely if I wanted to. So I crafted a message. I know everything. The messages, the hotel, the nights you lied about. If you think you can get away without consequences, think again. Be ready for what's coming. I hesitated before hitting send. It felt good releasing that anger into words. I knew she'd be scared when she saw it. Good. She deserved to be, and I was counting on her to make a mistake, to slip up again. That's when I'd strike. In the meantime, I kept my eyes open. I checked her social media accounts, her email, her phone logs, anything that might give me leverage. Every day I felt the weight of betrayal pressing down on me, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I was finally in control of this mess, not her. One evening I got a text from Tom. Dude, she's been calling me nonstop. I told her I don't want to talk, I don't want to get involved anymore. Good, that was one part of the puzzle. Now I just needed her to make a move, to slip up, because I was ready. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just going to let this go quietly. Not anymore. I decided I'd wait for her to come home. When she returned, I'd be there waiting. I'd be calm but firm. She'd try to talk her way out, apologize, beg, but I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't going to be the fool who forgives after she's been caught cheating. No, this was about making her understand that she'd lost everything. And when the moment was right, I'd do what I'd planned. It was time for her to face the consequences of her betrayal. The game was on, and I was finally ready to play. That night, I sat in my apartment, the silence thick and oppressive. Every minute felt like a lifetime. I kept glancing at the clock, eyes flicking to the door, waiting for her to come home so I could execute the final phase of my plan. I had been patient, calculated, and I'd gathered enough evidence to make her realize she was no longer in control. This was going to be her wake-up call. When the door finally opened, she stepped inside, looking exhausted but trying to hide her fear. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for reassurance, perhaps. She knew I wasn't stupid anymore. I wasn't going to be easy to manipulate. She hesitated at the entrance. "What do you want?" she asked, voice trembling. I kept my tone even, but with a quiet steel behind it. "I want to talk, sit down." She looked hesitant but eventually sank onto the couch. I took a deep breath, feeling my heart hammering in my chest. I needed to stay calm. I was about to make her see just how badly she'd screwed things up. "I sent you a message earlier," I started, voice low and controlled. "Did you read it?" She nodded slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Yes." "Good," I said, "because I want to make this clear. I know everything. The messages, the hotel, the nights you lied about. I've seen enough to know you were planning this for weeks. So tell me why." She looked down, twisting her hands nervously. I don't know what to say. I was overwhelmed, lonely. I felt like I was losing myself, and I made a huge mistake. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you." I clenched my fists, feeling the heat rise in my face. "Sorry isn't good enough. You lied to me, betrayed me, and almost ended everything we had. And you expect me to just forgive you?" She started crying, her voice breaking. "Please, I love you. I don't want to lose you. I was stupid, I swear." I shook my head. "You lost me the moment you decided to cheat. I'm done pretending I don't know the truth, but I'm not just going to walk away without making you understand the damage you've done. I've already planned what's next." Her eyes widened in panic. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've set everything in motion," I said simply. "You're going to leave tonight. You're going to go to your place, and you're not coming back here. I've contacted a lawyer. I've made arrangements for the house. You're not part of my future anymore." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "I want you to see what losing everything feels like. That's my revenge. Not just the pain, but the fact that I'm taking away your safety net. Your security, your life here with me gone." Her face twisted with despair. "Please don't do this." "I made a mistake, yes, but—" "Look, I don't want to hear excuses," I interrupted sharply. "You made your choice, and now you're going to face the consequences. You're leaving tonight, and I don't want to see you again until I say so." She looked like she was about to protest, but I cut her off. Pack your things, and don't try to contact me. I've already made arrangements to make sure you're out of this house by morning. It's done." She looked at me, eyes pleading, but I had already made up my mind. I was done being the fool, done being betrayed and humiliated. This was my way of reclaiming some dignity, even if it hurt like hell. As she quietly gathered her belongings, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. The house was silent again, but the ache in my chest was deafening. I knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I took control. It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about setting things straight, about standing up for myself when no one else would. When she finally left, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the door. I realized then that I'd never been more certain about one thing: I was better off without her. And the next step was making sure she remembered exactly what she'd lost, and who was really in charge now. The morning came way too quickly, like I'd blinked and suddenly everything was different. I watched her pack the last of her things, clothes, a few personal items, silent, methodical. Her hands trembled as she stuffed belongings into bags, and her eyes kept darting to the door. She knew she was leaving not just the house but the life she'd carefully constructed with me. I felt a strange calm watching her walk out that door. I handed her the keys without a word. "Take them," I said quietly, "and don't come back, not until I tell you it's safe." She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes, her voice cracking. "Please, can't we talk? I want to fix this." I shook my head. "You had your chance. That ship sailed long ago." My voice was steady, but inside it felt like my guts were twisting into knots. I felt the weight of everything: the betrayal, the heartbreak, the loss. But also a strange surge of relief. I had finally taken control. She hesitated, then turned to leave. As she stepped outside, I closed the door behind her. It felt like I was shutting away the worst part of my life, sealing it tight to keep it from bleeding out all over again. I watched her walk down the driveway, her figure shrinking in the distance. In that moment, I realized I'd done what I needed to do. No more excuses, no more lies. It wasn't easy. That ache in my chest still burned like fire, but I knew I'd come out of this stronger. I had taken back my power, and I'd learned a harsh lesson about trust and betrayal. You can't always fix what's broken, and sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. I sat back on my porch, feeling the sun warm my face. My mind kept replaying the last few days, how I'd uncovered the lies, planned the fallout, and finally took decisive action. It was a brutal lesson, but one I'd carry with me forever. I'd lost her, yes, but I'd gained clarity. A new beginning. As I stared into the horizon, I knew one thing for sure: trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But strength comes from knowing when to cut your losses and walk away. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is let go of what's hurting you, no matter how much it hurts to do so. I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill my lungs. The house was quiet now, and for the first time in days I felt a flicker of peace. I'd survived the storm, and I was ready to start rebuilding my life, without her, without the lies. Just me, standing tall, finally free. And from here I knew I'd be okay.